your feelings betray you. Every desire, every pang of empathy, every fleeting passion is a chain disguised as freedom. In this video, we strip away the illusion of emotion and reveal the cold strategy the masters of power use to dominate life, while others stumble blindly into ruin. Observe the world. Men are ruled not by reason, but by their trembling hearts. They surrender to anger, lust, and hope, imagining these as truth. But truth bows only to those who act with calculation, detachment, and cunning. In the shadows of human folly lies the path to control. Today, we delve into the ruthless art of mastering life not through sentiment, but through strategy, manipulation, and unflinching realism. Let the weak feel, let the wise act. Have you ever acted on impulse, believing your heart would guide you wisely, only to find yourself trapped by the very desires you trusted? This is the trap that ensnares nearly every man. Your emotions are not allies, they are saboteurs. They whisper, they seduce, they blind you, and yet you treat them as truth. Today, we examine why the road to mastery begins by seeing your feelings not as guidance, but as chains. Consider history's great rulers. Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon not because he loved Rome, but because he calculated the weakness of those around him. Alexander the Great did not pause to question his desires, he disciplined them. They understood what most fail to grasp. Emotion clouds judgment. The heart is an unreliable advisor. When the mob exults, it is led by hope. When the crowd despairs, it is led by fear. To trust your feelings is to surrender to forces outside your control. Look to the ordinary man. He meets anger with retaliation, sorrow with self-pity, and love with naivety. He acts as if the pangs in his chest carry wisdom. But what wisdom lies in fleeting passions? What insight emerges from panic or jealousy? None. Only opportunity is lost. Only power slips quietly into the hands of the detached, the calculating, the few who observe without participating. Ask yourself this: how often have your decisions been sabotaged by desire? How many ventures failed because you pursued pleasure over prudence, or trust over calculation? There is no shame in acknowledging it. There is only danger in repeating it. The moment you allow your feelings to dictate action, you hand control to the invisible strings of your own biology. Rage makes you reckless. Love makes you pliable. Fear makes you submissive. And yet, men continue to follow these impulses as if they were divine law. Emotions are convenient for others to manipulate. Consider a skilled politician, a cunning general, or even a shrewd merchant. They study human instinct like a hunter tracks prey. A threat appears, and the crowd panics. The manipulator steps in, offering guidance, but what he truly offers is control. Your anger and hope are not yours, they are tools for the one who can observe without succumbing. Can you see this truth? That your emotions are predictable, your reactions readable, your weakness visible? This is the first lesson of power. The less you surrender to feeling, the less others can command you. Even in personal life, the principle is unchanged. Lovers are lost to jealousy. Friends betray trust when sentiment guides their actions. Leaders stumble when pity outweighs strategy. To master any arena, you must view yourself as a chessboard, not a man. Every thought, every urge, every impulse becomes a piece to be considered, not a force to obey. Can you feel the coldness in that statement? Good. That is clarity. That is freedom. History teaches this relentlessly. Consider King Louis XIV of France. He did not allow affection or fear to determine his policies. He built Versailles, not because he loved extravagance, but because he understood spectacle commanded obedience. Consider the Venetian oligarchs, who concealed all sentiment behind masks of calculation. They survived where passion destroyed kingdoms. Their secret: they understood that feelings are liabilities. They understood that to dominate life, one must first dominate oneself. You may ask, but what of morality, of conscience, of the warmth of human connection? Morality is a mask, conscience is a tool. Emotions cloud, but reason illuminates. The human heart is a battlefield where weakness thrives. To trust it blindly is to surrender to chaos. Only through deliberate detachment do you gain the clarity to strike, the foresight to endure, and the patience to wait while others falter. The path to power is paved in calculated decisions, not instinctive reactions. Now, reflect on your own life. How often have emotions dictated a choice you regretted? How often have you been played because your feelings were visible, malleable, obvious? It is not a question of right or wrong. It is a question of survival. To act with detachment is not cruelty, it is strategy. To observe without interference is not apathy, it is mastery. And yet, understanding this is only the beginning. Recognizing your emotions as liabilities is the first step. The second, far more difficult step is to learn the subtle art of control, how to use emotions as instruments without becoming their prisoner. And that, my friend, is where most fail. So ask yourself, will you continue to be a puppet of your heart, dancing to the tune of every fleeting impulse? Or will you learn the cold discipline that separates the powerful from the powerless? The choice is yours, but the consequences are unforgiving. And as you sit with that question, know this: those who fail to master themselves will soon be mastered by others. The lesson is clear, and the danger is imminent. But mastery is a path, and the next step awaits. Do you believe that feeling for others is noble? That empathy is a virtue that elevates the soul. Think again. What you call compassion is often the cleverest disguise for vulnerability. Every tender sentiment you harbor is a window through which others observe your weakness. To trust empathy is to surrender power before a battle has even begun. Look at the cunning rulers of history. Consider Machiavelli's Florence, where alliances shifted like desert sands. The man who paused to pity his enemy often found his cities burned, his coffers emptied, his influence diminished. Those who wielded empathy as their guide did not survive. The shrewd, however, observed emotion and used it as a tool, a weapon cloaked in warmth. Ask yourself, when have you acted out of sympathy only to be betrayed? How often have your acts of kindness been returned with exploitation? Empathy without control is the bait for the opportunist. Think of the merchants of Venice, masters of negotiation, who feigned concern for a rival's plight, only to ensnare them in contracts that enriched themselves at the cost of trust. Their advantage was not cruelty, but calculation. They understood that to manipulate effectively, one must understand human feeling but never be governed by it. Empathy can be deadly because it blinds you. When you feel too much, your judgment becomes soft. You hesitate where you must strike. You forgive when you must punish. You console when you must conquer. Emotion masquerades as morality, but it is a luxury the powerful cannot afford. The weak praise it, the wise exploit it. Consider Queen Elizabeth I. She was celebrated for her apparent warmth, her attentiveness to advisors, her gracious audience with foreign envoys. Yet beneath the surface, she was a master strategist. Every smile was measured, every tear feigned. She read the hearts of those around her, while never revealing the state of her own. She manipulated loyalty, fear, and hope, all under the guise of empathy. Can you see the lesson here? Empathy is a performance, a stage upon which power is won or lost. Those who give it freely without calculation are actors in someone else's play. Now, turn the lens inward. When you feel compelled to comfort, to soothe, to forgive, ask yourself, to what end? Are you acting to serve your own influence, or are you dancing to the desires of another? Every gesture of sympathy can be weaponized against you. A rival can exploit your conscience, a lover can leverage your trust, a colleague can bend your loyalty. The world rewards those who understand this, punishes those who forget it. Even in private life, the trap is present. Parents, friends, lovers all seek to manipulate the empathetic. Your instinct to feel, to relate, to soften your stance is a signal. It is an opening, a vulnerability that can be measured, probed, and ultimately exploited. The wise see this and act accordingly. The foolish surrender their agency, believing that moral virtue will shield them. History proves it does not, and yet, empathy is not to be discarded entirely, it is to be mastered. Like fire, it can destroy, but it can also illuminate. When wielded strategically, it becomes a tool to predict behavior, to guide alliances, to ensnare those who overestimate your kindness. The master reads the room, the intentions, the weaknesses, and uses empathy as a mirror, reflecting back only what serves their design. Never give freely, give calculatedly. Never reveal the truth of your feeling, show only the shadow that advances your power. Consider the psychology at play. Humans are hardwired to trust warmth, to respond to concern. They lower their guard in the presence of empathy, and when you exploit that instinct while maintaining detachment, you command influence without apparent force. You become the unseen hand guiding outcomes, the architect of consent, while others marvel at your insight. This is strategy. This is control. So ask yourself, are your acts of empathy guiding your life, or are they guiding others to manipulate you? Are you shaping the world or being shaped by the illusions of sentiment? The answer will determine whether you remain a participant in life or its master. But understanding this, even with all its cold clarity, is merely the beginning. Recognizing empathy as a trap is one thing. Learning to wield it as a weapon, invisible and precise, is an entirely different, arty, dark, and subtle craft that few dare to master. And this craft, my friend, is what separates the observers from the conquerors, the weak from the unstoppable. Ask yourself, what do you truly want? What drives your waking thoughts and restless nights? Desire. It is the engine of action, the spark of ambition, but also the most cunning of chains. Every longing, every craving, every secret wish creates a vulnerability that others can exploit. The moment you believe your desires are private, they become your undoing. To dominate life, you must first understand that desire is the architect of weakness. Consider Alexander the Great. He conquered lands stretching from Greece to India. Yet even he was not immune to desire. His relentless ambition propelled him. Yes, but it was tempered by discipline, calculation, and foresight. Those who pursued personal gratification over strategic advantage fell behind, crushed under the weight of their own indulgence. Desire is a double-edged sword. It can motivate, but it can also blind. How often have you been blinded by what you want? Look at the ordinary man. He chases pleasure, wealth, approval, love, constantly reaching for what is just out of grasp. And in doing so, he exposes his weaknesses. He compromises, he overcommits, he trusts too easily, he bends to the will of those who understand his cravings. Desire transforms the mind into a predictable machine. The moment someone perceives your wants, they hold leverage over you. Every longing, no matter how secret, can be turned into a tool against you. Ask yourself, who truly controls your life, your reason, or your longing? Are you the master of your ambitions, or are your ambitions the master of you? Desire, left unchecked, breeds dependence. It binds you to outcomes, people, and illusions. Look at the merchants of Florence in the Renaissance. Many were talented, but those who acted on every whim, every dream of grandeur, every lust for social status lost fortunes to rivals who moved with cold calculation. Only those who disciplined their desire rose to lasting power. Even love, that most lauded of passions, can be weaponized against you. Julius Caesar, though brilliant in strategy, was entangled in human attachments that forced political concessions. Desire clouds judgment, erodes patience, and softens resolve. The wise ruler or strategist acknowledges longing, but never allows it to dictate action. They treat it like a tool to be observed and utilized, not obeyed. Every desire fulfilled is an opportunity for others to read your intention. Every unbridled craving is invitation to exploitation. Now consider the psychological dimension. The human mind is drawn to reward, to the scent of what it wants. This is predictable. You think you act independently, yet your choices are guided by subtle currents of longing. A clever adversary sees this clearly. They anticipate your moves, they manipulate circumstances, and they wait for the moment when your desire compromises your judgment. This is not speculation. It is the law of human nature. Look to history again. The Venetian doges, the mercantile dynasties, the cunning generals of Asia. They survived, they thrived, not because they lacked ambition, but because they disciplined it. They pursued what they wanted with patience, with timing, with strategy. Desire became a map, not a master. And you, who chase your cravings impulsively, are like a sailor in a storm, clutching a compass that spins wildly with every gust of passion. Ask yourself now, what desires drive you? Do they guide you toward mastery or toward ruin? Are you aware of the vulnerabilities they create, the predictable patterns they imprint on your actions? To see clearly, you must detach, not from ambition, not from the pursuit of power, but from the slavery of immediate gratification. The strongest do not eliminate desire. They control it, harness it, and use it as a lens to anticipate and outmaneuver others. And this is the bitter truth. Most will never learn. They are enthralled by longing, enslaved by what they cannot resist. They become pawns for those who are disciplined, patient, and cunning. And yet, for those who can master desire, the world bends. Opportunities become visible, enemies predictable, allies malleable. The mind becomes sharp, the will unbreakable. But recognizing the danger of desire is only the first step. The greater challenge lies in learning to wield it as an instrument without surrendering to it, to understand the currents without being carried away, to see the map without stepping into the trap. And here lies the threshold. Few ever cross it, and fewer still emerge untangled from the snares of longing. The next lesson, the subtle power of acting without attachment, will reveal how to convert this knowledge into absolute advantage. Have you ever noticed how the world bends around those who conceal their emotions? True power does not lie in passion or generosity. It lies in the ability to act without feeling, to read others while remaining unreadable. The moment you allow sentiment to govern your influence, you give away your position, your leverage, your advantage. To manipulate without feeling is not cruelty, it is mastery. Consider Caesar during the civil wars. He did not allow loyalty, friendship, or personal grievance to sway his decisions. He calculated, he observed, and he acted with precision. Those who acted out of affection or outrage were swept aside. Power rewards the detached, punishes the sentimental, and ignores the morally virtuous. Ask yourself, in your life, who holds the advantage, the one who feels everything, or the one who feels nothing but observes everything? Look to the masters of influence in commerce and politics. They smile while plotting, console while deceiving, embrace while restraining. Every gesture is a calculated move, every word a deliberate instrument. They understand the human heart, not to surrender to it, but to guide it. Can you imagine the patience required to feign warmth while predicting betrayal? The discipline to hide fear while reading the intentions of the fearful? This is the art of manipulation without feeling. Ask yourself, when was the last time you allowed someone to see your inner state, your anger, your desire, your fear? Consider the consequences. Each revelation becomes a weapon for others. Every glance of sympathy, every trembling inflection, every unintended expression signals weakness. Humans are instinctively drawn to cues they interpret emotion as truth. And those who hide nothing are always the most vulnerable. Even in history's quietest corridors, this principle proves itself. Look to the Venetian spies of the Renaissance, masters of information and subterfuge. They acted as friends, mentors, and confidants. Yet behind every word was calculation. They never allowed loyalty or empathy to dictate their actions. They used feeling as a lens through which to read others, never as a guide for themselves. This is subtlety in its most ruthless form. To feel nothing while everyone else assumes you feel everything. Now, consider the psychological layer. Humans instinctively project their emotions, believing others share their impulses, their morality, their trust. And yet, if you remain detached, if you act with cold precision, you become invisible in intention but omnipresent in effect. You guide decisions, provoke actions, and shape outcomes without ever appearing to intervene. People fight for your approval, fear your disapproval, and crave your guidance, all while unaware that they dance to the tune you composed. Can you see the elegance in this? The power in invisibility. Even in personal interactions, the lesson holds. Lovers, friends, colleagues, they all expose themselves through subtle cues. A twitch of the eye, a hesitation in speech, a quickened heartbeat, they signal intentions you can exploit. The detached observer uses these signals, never betrays their own. They act as the chess master, moving pawns, knights, and bishops without ever revealing their strategy. To manipulate without feeling is to turn life into a board where every piece serves your design. But beware, detachment does not mean passivity. To manipulate effectively, you must engage, you must participate, and you must convince others that your hand is guided by the same impulses they feel. You must mirror their passions, anticipate their fears, and exploit both. This is not imitation, it is mastery. Acting without feeling allows you to wield influence where others are blinded by empathy, attachment, or conscience. Ask yourself now, do you act, or are you acted upon? Do your feelings guide your choices, or do you guide them? The answer will determine whether you remain a participant in the whims of others, or become the unseen force shaping their destinies. This is the threshold where power is either seized or surrendered, and yet, understanding detachment is only the beginning. To act without feeling is to hold the world in your hands, but to wield it effectively requires subtlety, patience, and a mind sharp enough to anticipate every move before it is made. Those who fail are visible, predictable, and ultimately conquered. Those who succeed remain shadows, shaping reality, while others remain blind to their influence. And so, the question remains, will you allow yourself to be ruled by your own emotions, or will you learn the cold discipline that allows you to manipulate reality without ever revealing the truth of your heart? The next lesson, the art of observation and control, is where detachment transforms into unstoppable power. Do you see the world as it truly is, or only as you wish it to be? Most are blind, swept along by emotion, opinion, and impulse. The wise, however, watch. Observation is the first weapon of power. To control life, you must first understand it. Every gesture, every hesitation, every glance reveals intentions, weaknesses, and opportunities. Those who fail to notice remain enslaved. Those who observe rule. Consider the generals of history. Hannibal moved armies across the Alps, not by brute force alone, but by watching, calculating, predicting. He knew where men would falter before they did. Napoleon studied his enemies as one studies a chessboard, anticipating reaction, exploiting tendencies, and guiding the battlefield to his will. Observation is not passive, it is active strategy. It turns chaos into opportunity. Ask yourself, are you seeing the currents around you, or are you drowning in them? Even in subtle arenas, the principle holds. Think of the court intrigues in Renaissance Italy. Princes, ministers, and spies measured every word, every expression, every shadow of intent. The unobservant were discarded like old tools. The watchful rose to positions of immense influence. Observation allows you to predict human behavior, and prediction is power. When you know what others will do before they do it, you control outcomes without lifting a hand. Look closer to everyday life. Friends, colleagues, lovers all reveal themselves through patterns. Notice the person who subtly seeks approval, who hesitates when lying, who betrays fear in the smallest twitch. These details, invisible to the distracted, are the keys to influence. When you see clearly, you can act decisively. When you act without observation, you stumble blindly, manipulated by forces you cannot comprehend. Ask yourself, how often have you misjudged someone only to pay the price? How often have you been blindsided because you relied on words rather than deeds, appearances rather than reality? People speak in manners they hope conceal their intentions, but the observant read the truth behind the mask. Every hesitation, every overemphasis, every sudden calm, these are signals. Observation reveals what emotion obscures. Even commerce obeys this rule. The shrewd merchant studies his competitors, not merely their offers, but their habits, their reactions, their networks. He learns who is impatient, who is greedy, who is cautious. With this knowledge, he negotiates deals that seem fair, but are crafted entirely in his favor. Observation gives leverage. Knowledge without application is nothing. Can you see how every human interaction becomes a battlefield for those who are willing to watch and wait? And yet, observation alone is insufficient. It must be combined with detachment. To see without feeling is the true art. If you allow envy, affection, or fear to cloud your reading, you miss subtle truths. A distracted mind interprets patterns through wishful thinking. A detached mind reads them as they are. This is why the wise do not intervene until the moment is precise, until the conditions are exact, until the advantage is unmistakable. Observation without discipline is wasted effort. Discipline without observation is blindness. History offers endless examples. Elizabeth I survived assassination attempts and political machinations because she watched. And she watched patiently. She noted the smallest betrayal, recorded the faintest shift in loyalty, and struck when the moment guaranteed success. Observation gave her freedom. The unobservant would have been swept aside. And freedom is the ultimate currency of power. Ask yourself now, are you seeing or merely looking? Are you absorbing the truth of human behavior, or are you distracted by illusions of trust, hope, and sentiment? Every moment you fail to notice, others gain leverage. Every gesture you miss, a chain tightens around your agency. Observation is the silent dominion over those who assume you are unaware. And here lies the truth few grasp. Control does not require force. Control requires patience, subtlety, and a mind honed to recognize every signal. With observation, you predict before others act. You anticipate before they react. You guide without appearing to intervene. And when the time comes, the outcome unfolds precisely as you intended. But this skill, formidable as it is merely preparation. To dominate fully, One must transform observation into influence. To see is nothing if you do not know how to shape the world once you understand it. And that, my friend, is the next lesson. The delicate, ruthless art of turning insight into absolute advantage. Do you act with clarity, or are you enslaved by impulse? Passion is a tyrant disguised as a friend. It commands, distracts, and blinds. Every desire, every fear, every surge of anger lures the unthinking into miscalculation. Reason, and reason alone, is the instrument of mastery. To place logic above emotion is not coldness, it is survival. It is the difference between those who dominate life and those who are devoured by it. Consider the great strategists of history. Caesar crossed the Rubicon knowing that fear, hope, and loyalty would sway the hearts of men. Yet he did not let these forces dictate his actions. He calculated, he planned, he waited for the precise moment. Passion would have ruined him. Reason delivered an empire. Napoleon, too, conquered Europe not by the fervor of his ambition alone, but by applying unflinching logic to every battlefield, every political maneuver, every alliance. Ask yourself, would you dare follow your impulses if the stakes were empires and lives? Even in human relationships, the principle holds. How often have decisions made in anger or desire led to regret? A lover betrayed by jealousy, a friend abandoned in a moment of wrath, a leader undone by pride. History is littered with the wreckage of passion. It is seductive, intoxicating, and ruinous. Reason offers the antidote, the ability to step back, to weigh options, to predict outcomes. Passion acts, reason controls. Which do you choose? Look to the lessons of commerce and politics. The shrewd negotiator never succumbs to the thrill of the deal. He observes, calculates, and waits for the opening that ensures maximum gain with minimal risk. The emotional trader loses fortunes in moments of panic. The logical strategist profits quietly, invisibly, decisively. Emotion clouds perception. Reason clarifies it. Do you see the pattern? Those who survive and thrive are never the most passionate. They are the most deliberate. History offers countless examples. Elizabeth I ruled England through decades of intrigue and rebellion, yet she never allowed her temper, her attachments, or her fears to dictate policy. Every choice was calculated, every decision measured. The result, a kingdom that endured, even when enemies plotted endlessly against her. Contrast this with rulers who surrendered to passion. They fell swiftly, their empires collapsing under the weight of unchecked impulses. Reason shields, passion exposes, and yet, reason is not absence of action. It is not hesitation in the face of opportunity. It is disciplined engagement. A wise strategist acts when conditions are right, not when emotions demand. He observes the currents of human behavior, predicts outcomes, and then intervenes with precision. Passion acts like a wildfire, consuming everything indiscriminately. Reason is a scalpel, cutting exactly where necessary, leaving the rest untouched. Which instrument will you wield? Consider the psychology of the human mind. Emotions are immediate, primal, and easily exploited. Fear, desire, anger, these are predictable, measurable, manipulable. The intelligent observer uses them, while the enslaved become instruments for the whims of others. To reason is to step outside the chaos, to see the battlefield clearly, and to maneuver where others stumble blindly. The question is simple. Will you be the master of your mind or its servant? Even personal ambition obeys this rule. To achieve mastery over wealth, influence, or power, one must anticipate consequences, weigh risks, and delay gratification. The impassioned grasp recklessly at fleeting rewards, the rational plan quietly, ensuring victory when others are distracted. Every success achieved without reason is fragile, every decision made in passion ephemeral. Logic, and only logic, endures. So ask yourself, do your choices arise from feeling or from calculation? Are your victories the result of luck or of foresight? Every action guided by passion is an opportunity for failure. Every decision guided by reason is a step toward dominion. To reason above passion is to see clearly in a world clouded by impulse. It is to act while others hesitate, to strike while others falter, to endure while others crumble. And yet, understanding this is only the beginning. Mastery demands not only reason, but the courage to act consistently with it, even when every instinct screams otherwise. The heart may revolt, the world may doubt, but the mind that governs itself controls all else. The question remains, will you follow the intoxicating call of desire, or will you embrace the cold, unyielding clarity of reason. The next lesson, the final synthesis of these truths into unstoppable power, awaits those who dare to subordinate passion to intellect. Power is invisible. Influence is silent. Those who rule most effectively do so not with force but with foresight, observation, and subtlety. You have seen the truth. Emotions betray, desire weakens, empathy can be exploited, and reason alone guides the hand of mastery. Ask yourself how many around you act on impulse while you calculate. How many reveal their weaknesses while you conceal your own? Every word, every gesture, every pause can be a tool if you see clearly. Every mistake of others is an opportunity for control. The art of domination is not to be noticed, but to be effective, to shape outcomes while others believe they are free, to act while others hesitate, to win where others falter. Now the question is yours. Will you continue as a pawn in the game of life? Or will you rise as its unseen architect? Comment your thoughts below, reveal the strategies you intend to master. Subscribe, and arm yourself with more Machiavellian insights. Share this lesson, and let others unknowingly fall under your influence.